Hello everyone, welcome to the Meditator Perspective channel. This is our second video on our Python tutorial playlist, and in this video we'll be learning on how to use string data in Python. To all my subscribers, thanks for sticking with us, and if you are new here, kindly subscribe and like our videos if you find them educative. Without wasting time, let's dive right in. In this video, we'll be learning on Python data types, and basically we'll be learning on how to work with text data. Text data in Python is known as strings. Currently, I have my Python hello.py file, which we created on our last tutorial video to run our hello world text line of code. This line here uses the print function, and we passed our text value into that print function. We can also create a variable to hold our text value. For example, I can say message and pass in our text value, which is hello world. Okay, so we can go ahead and run our variable message in place of directly running your string value in the print function. So if we go ahead and run this, we also get hello world. By convention, our variables are always in lower casing, and if it's a multiple words, we can separate each word by using underscore. So we can say first underscore message, and also call our statement our string, which is hello world, and go ahead and print our first message. Okay, you can see that the above string was created using single quotes. You can also use double quotes in Python. So in place of our single quotes, we can also call our double quotes and say hello world. It works as well. There are situations where our text might contain a single quote. It is preferable to use double quote for our string then, as Python tends to read the second quote as a closing quotation mark, resulting in an error where our code is being run. For example, a text like this that says hello's world, we have another quotation mark here before the S. So if I go ahead and run this, it will tell us that we have an error. So in situation like this, it's preferable for you to use a double quotation mark for your string to avoid running into such error. So if you can run this, you can simply say we have the hello's word. Okay, this is just an example. We can see each letter in our string as an individual character. For example, let's check the length of our string hello world. So let's go back to this and say our message is equals to hello world, and we want to print the length of this string message. So we can say length, can use the length function to check the length of our message, and you can see the length of our message is 11. And if we go ahead and count 1 2 3 4 5 6, note the space between both words are inclusive, so 6 7 8 9 10 11. So you can see we have 11 characters in total, giving us a length of 11. Okay, we can access the location of any character in our string by using the square brackets and passing in the number representing the location of that character of the string we want. Okay, so we've gotten the length of our string to be 11. We can also go ahead to get a particular character from this string by passing in the position of that string, and we call this indexing in Python. And we should note that our indexing starts at 0. So if we want to count this, it's going to be h will be taking the value of 0, e will be taking the value of 1. So let's just go ahead and print, okay, message, and we'll use our square bracket and pass in the index of 0. So if we run this, we're going to get h in return, because h is the first character in this string and it's at the position of 0. Okay, so if we want to get the last character of this string, which is d, we know that the length of our string is 11 and the first position is at 0. So technically 11 minus 1 is 10. So if we go ahead and print our variable, which is message, and pass in the position 10, it's going to give us our last character, which is d. If you try to access an index that doesn't exist, you will get an index error. So the full length of our string is 11. This is technically from 0 to 10. So if I go ahead and I want to access 11, is already out of band from our string, because the last word here is d, which is at position 10. So if I pass in 11, we're going to get a string, we're going to get an string index out of range. So we're going to get an error. We can also access a range of characters. For example, I can decide to say I want to get values or get characters from the beginning of my string, which is h, to just this aspect. Oh, I just want to get hello. Okay, so if we can't, h start is at 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So we can go ahead and print our variable once more, and let me just take this down a bit so that we can have a clearer view, and pass in our first index value, which is 0, to give us our h, and use our colon sign. Okay, then what we want to do next is to determine the ending value. But one thing we should take note in Python is that when you are slicing, this process is known as slicing. When you are slicing, the last value is not usually inclusive. So if you want to include the last value, you have to go a step further to the next value. So if we were to stop at the last value, we have to go a step further, because if we say this is 0, 1, 2, 3, and O is at 4. So if we pass in 4, we'll take note that O will not be inclusive. So if we go ahead and print this message, you'll see we just get hell, which is HEL, hell, right? So if we want to get O to get our full word, which is hello, which we require, we have to add an additional 1 to it, okay? So that it's going to go from a range of 0 to 5, because when slicing, the last value is not usually inclusive. All right, next we'll be looking at methods. Methods are functions that can only be called on a particular object. All Python data types have certain methods that can be used with it. So let's look at some string methods. Looking at our string hello world, we can decide that we want it to be in lower casing, right? So we can use the lower method on it. So let's say we can print this once more and call on our variable, which is message, and call on the lower method. So initially, this is our string hello world. So if we go ahead and run this, calling the lower method, let's see what it gives to us. So you can see it's now in lowercase, and same way we can also put this in upper casing also. So by calling the upper method, so let's say upper, and run this, and if we run this, you can see all our strings are now in upper casing. Another method we can look at is count. The count method is used to count characters or words in our string. We can say print message, and we can decide to count the occurrence of L. So if we look at our word hello world, we can see that L occurs 3 times. We have 2 occurrences of L in hello and 1 occurrence of L in word. So we can go ahead and call our count method, and what you are going to do is you pass in the particular character or words you want to count within your string. So we want to count L, right? So if we go ahead and run this, let's see how many times. So we can see that it gives us 3 because the word L occurs 3 times in hello world. So another method we can also look at is the find method. Find method can be used to find the index of a character in a string. So for our string hello world, and without going ahead and counting this individually 0 1 2 3, if I just want to know what is the index value of W, right, I can go ahead and get that without doing my counting manually. So by using the by using the find method, so I can say print, calling my variable which is message, and calling the find method. And just like the count method where you have to specify the character which you want to count, or the word which you want to count, in the find method too, you also have to specify that character or word which you want to find. So this time around we want to find W, right? So let's go ahead and find what is the index of W in hello world. So you can see it's at index 6, and if we go ahead, we can go above and confirm if this H is at 0, E at 1, L at 2, the next L at 3, O at 4. I told you our space in between the words is inclusive, so our space will take the value of 5 and W will take the value of 6, right? So we got the right answer. So another thing we can look at is replace. Replace a method is used to replace a character with another string. So for example, instead of hello world, I might decide to say, okay, I want to say hello Collins, or hello, I want to put somebody's name in place of word, right? So I can do that by using the dot replace method. So I can say print, call our variable once more, and call the dot replace method. And this time around, the replace method take 2 words. First of all is what is the word you want to replace, and secondly, what is the word are you replacing it with. So what we want to replace here is word, right? And what do we want to replace it? Let's say we want to replace it with Collins. Okay, so if we go ahead and run this, you can see we have hello Collins now in place of our hello world. So calling the dot replace method can be used in replacing a word or a character in our string. So in place of replacing the entire word, I can decide to say, okay, I spelt word wrongly and I want to make a correction. I can decide to replace probably W with any other alphabet which I choose to. So it works same way also. Next, we'll be looking at how we can add multiple strings together. Adding of strings together in Python is known as concatenation. So we can concatenate 2 or more strings together, and we can easily do that using the plus sign. So let's say, for example, I have a word, and let's call this Collins. And let's say I have another word, another variable. Okay, let's just call this greetings, and let's say this is I. So I want to create a full test from these different different variable and say I Collins, right? So I can do this by adding these two tests together or concatenating these two tests together and say print so I will come first, right? So I can say print greeting and use the plus function and say name. So I'm saying add name, which is Collins, to greeting. So let's go ahead and run this, and you see we have I Collins, right? But with this test, definitely would want a space to be between I and Collins. You can easily do this by adding a space, right? So adding is this signifies you are technically adding an empty string, so we can put in a space in between it. And if we go ahead and run this again, you can see we now have a space between these I Collins. We can also decide to say, okay, I want to add a comma to this, so it will be I comma Collins, right? So let's do this. So we have I comma Collins. So this is how you can add two strings together. There are other ways that you can also go about concatenating strings together, but I'll be creating a separate video for that to look into it thoroughly, where we'll be looking at the F literal strings, formatting strings, and the rest of them. I'll be creating a special video just for that. Okay, so we've just looked at some few methods which we can use with strings in Python. If you want to know what are those other methods that you can use with strings with Python, we have the dir function, and it helps us to see all the methods that can be used with strings in Python. So I can go ahead and call the dir on strings, and you know str represents strings in Python. So let's go ahead and run this, and if you just go ahead and ignore this first few lines, and let's start from our capitalize. So you can see we have our capitalize method. We also have the case food, we have center, we have count, which we've used earlier, we have encode, we have find, which we've used, we have format, we have index, we have is alpha, is unknown. So these are all the methods we can use with strings. Okay, so another thing is we can also call the help function on any particular method to assist you on how these various methods are being used. So for example, we can say we want to print help on our str, just like we print and did earlier. So calling on this, so let me scroll down a bit so that we can see clearly. You can see help on the class string in module bulletins. So if we go down a bit, we can see various ways, and it also gives us example on how it's being used. So we have the capitalize, and it tells us what it does. It returns a capitalized version of the string, and more specifically make the first character have uppercase and the rest lowercase. So you see, so it tells us what a specific method does, and it even gives you an idea of how it can be used. So we have the count, encode. So these various methods which we've seen here, calling the help on str is also going to give you a brief explanation on how this method is being used and what it does. So another thing we can do is we can call the help function on a particular method. So for example, if you are working and you are trying to use a particular method and you can't you don't know how that method is being used, or you are forgetting how the method is being used, you can call the help function. So let's say print, let's call our help, and let's say our string and specify the method. Let's say we're trying to use the find method, and go ahead and run this. Okay, so by this now you get just only information relating on how that find method can be used on string objects, and it also gives you a brief example. Like, it tells you find, you are supposed to say, okay, determine where you want to start from and where you want to end, and it gives you a brief description. It returns the lowest index in s, which is your string, where the substring is being found. Okay, so if there's that string cannot be found, it also tells you, it returns -1 on failure, right? So this one gives you just a specific information on that particular method you are trying to make use of. Alright, this brings us to the end of our class. Remember to subscribe for more content like this and like our videos. Bye, see you in our next class.